Hey everybody, my name's Danny Wilson. We're here at the Collective Phoenix. We're going to be covering a first service on a Harley-Davidson Big Twin. If you're watching this video, you probably have read the article in the magazine. This is the video that supports that article, so you get a visual reference for everything that we have mentioned in the article itself. So we're going to be using Motul products today. We've got engine oil, which all the Milwaukee 8s call for 5 quarts. Then we've got transmission fluid and primary fluid. In the article we discussed that there are different clutches that require different fluids. This is a traditional fluid, so if you do have a Barnett or an Evolution or anything of that nature, you're going to have to run an automatic transmission fluid in the primary. But for what we're doing today, we're going to use the Motul. We generally use Harley-Davidson factory oil filters. This is for the Milwaukee 8. When the Milwaukee 8 launched, you're using twin cam filters. Harley has since made a specific filter for the Milwaukee 8. It's a little bit longer to compensate for the extra oil that's in the system. The bike that we're working on today has a serviceable filter. We use a lot of these. They're manufactured by Flow. They filter down to 35 microns and they're serviceable, so you can take them apart and clean them. You don't ever have to replace them. The only thing on this that does get replaced from time to time is the O-ring seal. These filter at 35 microns, which is roughly 7 times greater than a paper filter is capable of filtering down to. It's also got a magnet built into it. It's going to capture any ferrous material that's in your oil when it makes its way to the filter. We put these on pretty much every big build that we do. Obviously they cost more than a regular oil filter, but you only buy one. So in the article I referenced the service schedule. You can pull any of the service intervals for your motorcycle on harley-davidson.com. If you scroll all the way to the bottom of the home page, there's a tab that says maintenance. You can click on that and you can pull the specific interval and the schedule for your motorcycle. This will tell you everything that you need to do to the motorcycle. Today we're covering a 1,000 mile service. This is broken down by mileage and by task, and if it's got an X in it, it needs to be performed. The service interval is basically 4 pages of tasks to be done. Obviously we're not going to perform all those tasks today. We are going to focus on changing the fluids and some of the things that are commonly overlooked when people do their own services. So as discussed in the article, the bike's been heated up. We've test ridden it to get all the oils hot. It's going to drain more efficiently. You're going to get more oil out of it when it is hot. The bike needs to be positioned upright, secure. For what we're doing today, we're going to be using this Harley-Davidson product. It will catch all 3 of the fluids at the same time, which gives you the ability to pull the 3 drain plugs and then finish the rest of the service while everything is draining. So as discussed in the article, these drain plugs have a magnet on them, and the intention is to catch any ferrous metal that's in these systems. All 3 of the drain plugs have one. All 3 of the drain plugs are the same. You've also got this O-ring on there, which is Harley-Davidson part number 11105. You want to replace those every time you change these fluids out. This drain plug O-ring is not reusable. Generally, if you try to reuse them, they'll snap and they'll leak. So now we got all 3 of the drain plugs pulled. We're draining everything. At this point, while that's happening, go through the rest of the list. All your critical fasteners, everything that you're supposed to check for torque is on that schedule. This is a great opportunity for you to go all the way around the bike while the fluids are draining and maximize your time. We can check the brake pads, which you're going to get a flashlight and look down into the calipers with those. We're going to check the belt, check the critical fasteners. On a cable-driven clutch, you're going to check your clutch adjustment, which is model specific based on where it's at. If you're hydraulic, there is no check. It's a go, no-go system. It either works or it doesn't. So you're going to want to get a flashlight and catch an angle where you can visually see the brake pads. This bike's got a Brembo radial on it. So what you're looking for is relatively even protrusion of the pistons inside the brake caliper, and you want to visually inspect that you've got plenty of friction material on your brake pads left so that you're not getting any metal-to-metal contact. This isn't something where you're going to pull it off and pull the pads out and take an actual measurement. This is a visual inspection to make sure that you're not running low on friction material on the brake pad itself. So you're looking for this gauge will register when you've applied 10 pounds of force to the belt. That's where you're taking the distance measurement. And you've got a scale here that tells you how far it's traveled when you reach 10 pounds. This belt's actually a little bit tight, so it's going to need to be loosened. So you want to check your tire tread depth. You're going to have a tool to do that. This is a Harley-Davidson tool that will check your tread depth and your air pressure with the same tool. The gauge down here is color-coded. If you're in the yellow, you should be looking at a tire. If you're in the red, you should be putting a tire on today. Oil filter location between touring and softail is the same. It's up here in front of the front cylinder. If you've got a stock style oil filter, this is the oil filter wrench that you would use. It's a Harley-Davidson part. You're going to want an oil filter wrench because they're really tough to get off if you're just trying to do it by hand or with pliers. Also, with a stock style filter, when you're putting it back on, don't over tighten it. Do yourself a huge favor because they get relatively impossible to get off if you do in fact over tighten them. These flow filters have a drive on them, so you're just going to use a 17mm socket and get up in there and unscrew it. When we get this filter off, we're going to take it apart and inspect the magnet and the element in the filter, and we'll clean it and reassemble it. So this engine we just built, it's got just over 1,000 miles on it. This is the first oil change we're doing to it. There's a very small amount of ferrous material stuck to that magnet. That's a good sign. You're going to always have some metal stuck to the magnets and everything. In the transmission as it wears, the metal's going to wear down and it's going to get to the bottom and stick to that magnet. In the primary, as the friction material in your clutch plates wear, same thing. That's all going to stick to that magnet. In the engine, you generally end up with less ferrous material than the other two cavities. The nice thing about these filters, you do have that magnet. So if there is anything in the system, this is going to capture it before it flows through the entire engine. All right, so we've got the filter off, got it all cleaned up, cleaned the element, cleaned the magnet off. When you pull these filters off, you're always going to have oil in here. You're going to want to spray it down with some brake clean so that when you park the bike next, you don't get a big puddle under it. Make sure that you get the surface cleaned where the oil filter seals so that it seals properly and you don't tear up the O-ring on your filter. So these call for 5 quarts of oil. We're going to start by putting 4.5 quarts in it, and then we're going to test ride the bike, get it to full operating temperature, double check it, and top it off at the end of the service. One of the things that's often overlooked is checking the brake fluid's quality. Late model Harleys run .4 brake fluid. If they get too much water in them, it lowers the boiling point to a dangerous level. The reason this often gets overlooked is you got to buy a tool to do it. You can get these on Amazon. They're not that expensive. I would strongly suggest if you're going to be doing all your own services that you get one. You need to check front and rear, but just for this video we're going to do the rear because it's easy to get to right here. We're going to pull the cover off of the reservoir. What we're going to do is take the cap off the tool. It's got those 2 prongs on it. It's got a gauge on the side here that's got lights. We're going to activate the tool, put the tool in the brake fluid. This brake fluid is at less than 2%, so it's in the okay range, but it's pushing not okay. So more than likely at the next service, this brake fluid is going to need to be flushed and replaced with clean, fresh fluid. So at this point, our service is complete. We've gone through everything on the maintenance schedule. We've checked all the fluids, changed them. We've made our adjustments. The bike's good to go. We've got 4.5 quarts in it. We're going to go ride it and top it off when we get back. Thanks for checking out this video. Stay tuned for everything we've got coming up next.